fiction. This panel has not been oversold at all. There is incredibly good stuff out there. And part of the reason I wanted to have this panel at this convention is because I think there's a lot of attention given to novels. I think there's a lot of attention given to, you know, the large magazines, and even these large magazines. I mean, they sell in the neighborhood of 20 to 30,000 copies, which is not actually, you know, it's not monstrous. There is a ton of stuff out there that is neither novel, that is not in the mortar and brick bookstores, that is for free, and free on purpose. I'm not talking about pirated stuff either. And there's a ton of good stuff out there, and I've been listening and reading online fiction myself for about 5 years, because part of my goal as a writer was to improve my short fiction as I get ready for going to novel length. And I'm really enthusiastic about what's out there, and there's some award-winning stuff, and I felt that we ought to have a panel where we just boost this stuff and say, there's so much awesome stuff out there, let's talk about it. So my name is Derek Künsken. I'm a short fiction writer. I'm looking to sell my first novel sometime soon, but I want to make sure I get it done right first. I've been to many cons over the last 3 or 4 years. I just came back from WorldCon, and I have World Fantasy Convention next month. And I'm in the writers group, These Block Irregulars, and I'm also one of the people who helped organize this month. So I'm really happy you guys are here, and I'm also super happy for my co-panelists to present themselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Geoff Gander. I'm also a writer of short fiction, and I'm also a member of the East Block Irregulars with Derek. I haven't been writing as actively for as long as Derek has, but he's turned me on to the wonders of free online short fiction, so I can definitely say that there are a lot of benefits to it. I'll be happy to add my thoughts as we go on. Awesome.
Hi, my name is Sonia. I write under the name S.M, Carrière, which is just my 2 initials of my surname. I actually write novels mostly, but I do have a self-published anthology out at the moment. Visit my booth. And I actually got turned on to online fiction by Derek as well, primarily for this panel, but I was really impressed with the quality of stuff that I was reading. It was pretty phenomenal, so I'm really excited to talk about it today.
Okay. And this panel is going to run pretty informally, and I'll have questions and I'll interject from time to time, but also I think that it'll be fun to have audience participation from time to time as well, so we'll have a good time. So maybe, Sonia, you could start and tell us, what have you been reading?
The online magazine, I guess it is, that I read for this panel was called Beneath the Seas Blue Skies. I picked it because the title is pretty awesome. And what it is, actually, it aims at combining the best of literary fantasy with adventure fantasy. So you get all kinds of fantasy on these things, from steampunk to weird westerns to high fantasy, and all of them have a slightly literary bent. But they're not so literary that they become obscure. They were really enjoyable. One of my favorites was a weird western, I wrote the name down, called Bandit and the 17 Raccoon War, which was in not this release, but the previous one, September 6th. That was really fun. It was started in 2008, where it won the Million Writers Award for the Best New Online Magazine. And then in 2009, a short story in there, Father's Kill by Christopher Green, won the Borealis Award for Best Fantasy Short. So there's really good stuff in this magazine. The publisher and editor-in-chief is Scott H. Andrews, and assistant editor is Kate Marshall. I think Scott Andrews is in Virginia, if I remember rightly, and Kate Marshall is in Seattle. So yeah, it's actually a paid market. They pay their authors 5 cents US award. Yeah, I was really impressed, and then offer it to readers for free.
Yeah, I don't understand the business model completely. But
No, I don't know.
I appeared in issue 84 of that magazine.
Did you really?
Yes, I was very...
I didn't get back that far.
No, that's okay. But no, my story, The God Thieves, was in there, and I really enjoyed working with Scott Andrews, because he, as an editor, and I'm speaking now from the writer's side, he would say, I love this story, I have some edits, how do you feel about edits? I'm like, well, you're the editor, you're going to help me make the best possible story. And so he said, fantastic. And so I got edits, and he would do things like, you know, your paragraph really ought to end here on the note of highest tension. These other 2 lines, just, you know, you've already had the climax of your paragraph. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is really intense. But I mean, every time I did what he said, I was like, oh my God, this just looks better. And then he fixed some of the ending too of my story, and my story had ended maybe a couple of sentences too long, which is a regular sort of problem for writers to get over. So I love their stuff. The other thing is they do audio, right?
Yes, they do. They do audio. They also offer a podcast, which you can get through iTunes or an RRS feed.
Yeah.
They're really good.
So they come to my BlackBerry, I think every 2 weeks. They send in, you know, here's the links, here's the news stories, and I guess they give you the first paragraph and a half. And then you've also got the audio in. So I consume all my books audio now. So Geoff, why don't you tell us what you're reading?
Well, right now, Derek has just recently turned me on to Pseudopod as one of the things I specialize in writing, because I lean more towards the horror genre. And of course, there isn't, from my, you know, I have looked, there aren't too many online sources for horror writing and fiction. Like Sci-Fi does publish some of the stories that have a horror bent to it, but in terms of out and out bone-chilling terror, unless you want to look at Project Gutenberg and dig up the old works of Lovecraft, which is always worth reading. Derek turned me on to this because I find where I am currently in my life, I often don't have time to sit down in front of a computer and read something, walk the dog, and doing other things. I can listen to a story and be entertained and be exposed to all sorts of new things while I'm doing something else. I was very resistant to the idea at first, and he said, look, just try it out. And I did. And one story that I listened to most recently of Ants and Mountains on Pseudopod is really quite an interesting take on it. But basically what the author had done is used real news stories of a tornado that devastated a Midwestern town, and used that to the horror element of the people going into the town and cleaning up the devastation. It's basically one man's relationship with his wife as they're going to her old place to pick up the pieces. And in the meantime, there's a serial killer running around the neighborhood, and so they're using the cleanup effort and the disaster, the social disorder that's that this town is facing. In the meantime, this killer is running loose, murdering older women. the granny killer, they called the news called him. And ultimately, this, not to give away too much, the protagonist's wife disappears, and in his search, he also deals with his experiences fighting the Korean War as well. So there's flashbacks that come in there. So the storm of war, the storm of that the town has just faced, and the storm of his own emotions and the terror that he faces, when ultimately comes to its final conclusion. I won't give away too much, but the fact is, I was able to listen to someone read the story. I could hear them imitate the voices. The pacing speeds up and slows down. And it was wonderful that it was all free. I didn't have to pay for it. Whenever I wanted started, stop it, listen to it on the bus. So I was really sold on this concept. So
After the first one, or did it take you a couple?
It took the first one.
Really?
So I've got another one that I'm going to start listening to soon. But there's that, and AE Sci-Fi. So I like to support Canadian publishers as much as possible. Let's grow our own industry. And AE Sci-Fi is Canadian and unabashedly so. And they even have preference. They even try to get in as much Canadian talent as possible for their online magazine. So I was turned on through Matt Moore to check out AE Sci-Fi. And as I Touch the Sky, they say.
Yeah, that was the one he was nominated for the Aurora.
For the Auroras, and that if you get a chance, read that story. It's so short, but it's what he does to convey the sense of unease of having the sky literally fall, and the implications that it has in the world, and the implications that it has for the main character, having to realize that his horizons have been cut short. And basically, it's 2,000 words, probably.
Yeah,
it's very short.
Matt's
very powerful.
Actually, not personally, but I mean, just his writing is like, I have trouble sometimes.
But that was a very digestible thing for me. So I think we should try to use these venues as much as possible, because it's great feedback for your own writing too.
So you
Can I jump in just really quick?
Totally.
If anybody's interested, I've printed off a copy of Matt Moore's story. I'm Paul Jarvie. I'm one of the co-editors of the sci-fi.
Oh, you're Paul.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Well, you're going to be on the panel at 2 p.m. where we're doing something experimental, where we're taking Paul Jarvie, one of the editors from a sci-fi. We're taking Leah Bobbitt, one of the publisher of Idiomancer, and we're taking 2 readers. And we're putting them on a panel together to talk about, what the different experiences are. What were the editors trying to do? Why did they pick these stories? What did the readers get? And I think it's going to be an awesome panel. First time we've ever tried. And so welcome. That's going to be exciting.